Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another episode of Signature Scent series, and today I'm going to be talking about Musk Oud by Kilian, so stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button, really do appreciate it. Now, Kilian has a lot of fragrances that are very popular: Black Phantom, Straight to Heaven, Good Girl Gone Bad, but there are a lot of fragrances that don't get a lot of talk from the house that are nonetheless absolutely exceptional fragrances. And today I'm going to be talking about Musk Oud, which I have been on the lookout for quite some time to get this fragrance in my collection, and it is one that I managed to finally get. So I'm going to talk about it today and why I think this is a really good signature scent and also a hidden gem from the house of Kilian. And before I get into the fragrance, I'm going to show you briefly the presentation for the bottle. So just to briefly showcase the presentation, it does come in the coffer. I don't actually have the coffer. I did buy just the bottle. Now I have it in an extra Straight to Heaven coffer that I had. Now, at least when this was originally released, it did have an Arabian Nights coffer, I believe, which had a nice large logo that sort of covered the entire front of the coffer. Very stylish. I'm not sure with the changes how available that actually is now, but it is nice if you can find it. I personally have enough coffers, so I don't really mind. But the presentation, of course, on the inside of the coffer is like any other, and you get the fragrance here. Now, of course, if you've seen Kilian, you are familiar with the fragrances. This one, I believe it always had gold. So I believe that the Oud line always had the gold plaque and the gold cap. And of course, it has the logo on the side. One thing I should mention, you know, for people who are trying to buy these online or have bought them elsewhere and they want a discount, there's a couple different ways that you can tell if one of these fragrances is real or authentic. One of the easy ones and one of the best ones, it's a little bit hard to get a picture of this, so it may be hard to ask, but if you have a bottle, you can always check. And if you look on the inside here, the one thing that fakes always seem to miss is that this black bit doesn't actually cover the entire fragrance or the entire bottle. Behind this plaque, it's actually blank. So you can look through the top and you can see the plaque from the back. And of course, I can see that from this fragrance and the other Kilians that I have, and I've bought some retail, so I know for sure that trick is true. Most of the fake ones, they just have the black the whole way across because I guess they don't think anyone's going to check. But as with other Kilians, this is a refill bottle. It is refillable, so this comes off and you can just put a refill in it. And I've always liked that about the Kilian presentation. I like the refillability, even though I don't know that I would ever get to a refill, just because even if I finish a bottle, there's so many fragrances to get that I certainly might move on to something else. But anyways, guys, that is the presentation. Now let's get into the fragrance. Now, as for this fragrance, what exactly do I get from this one? Now, this is one that does change a little bit over time. It does open up and dry down a little bit differently, although it is somewhat linear in the way that it actually comes through. But I will say that this one actually opens up with a little bit of freshness, and the rose in this is very prominent. So this is a musk, rose, and oud fragrance. And I find in the opening anyways, in the first maybe hour or so, the rose is extremely, extremely prominent. Now that does make it a little bit feminine in my opinion, but it doesn't come off exceptionally feminine. Now it does have a nice clean musk, and there is something about the rum note that makes this a little bit fresh also in the opening. So there is this clean, very powerful musk. I get a hint, only a hint of woodiness right on the opening, and that slowly sort of disappears where the rose then emerges as the center stage of the fragrance, and that is backed by a very strong musky fragrance. Now I will say, if you don't like particularly musky fragrances, you definitely won't like this one, because to me musk becomes the very prominent note in this fragrance. It definitely becomes the star, and of course you might assume that with a name like Musk Oud. Interestingly, the oud is not that strong, and if I had to say what this oud sort of smells like when it's present, is something similar to oud wood without any sort of spices. Now this does have spice in it, and I do sometimes get a touch of cardamom, which adds a nice dimension. But this isn't one that I would class as being particularly spicy. Now there is something about the dry down that is very inviting. It does have a certain warmth to it, but at the same time it doesn't really have a lot of spice. Now what I get instead is sort of a muskiness with a slightly fresh floral undertone with that rose that then also has a nice sort of woody base to back that up. Now, as I mentioned, the wood in this, not very prominent. It is not exceptionally oudy. It is not even exceptionally woody. It is prominently a musk fragrance. And there is just a very nice, clean, luxurious, musky smell. And this one is one that doesn't get a lot of talk in the community, although I know a lot of the oud fragrances have been or are on their way to being discontinued. I do believe this is one of the ones that made the cut and has not been discontinued. So if that says anything about the fragrance itself, I think it should at least tell you it is one of the better or more popular renditions of oud from the house of Kilian. As this one dries down, or deeper into the dry down, once it's been on your skin for a few hours, the woody base does actually start to become more prominent, and the musk sort of blends in with that to becoming a musky, woody fragrance. To me, this is actually my favorite part of the fragrance. I do like the mid, I do like the dry down. The very prominent rose in the opening is my least favorite part. I'm not a huge rose fan, but I actually still do like that sort of slightly boozy, slightly fresh opening that it has. And I do also get a little bit of that booziness, a little bit of that rum in the mid and in the dry down. It adds a bit of a almost bitter quality to the fragrance. I know some alcoholic beverages at times certainly smell a little bit bitter, and it does give me a slight hint of that along with the clean musk and woodiness. But again, the rum is not particularly prominent. It's definitely a very minor note, one that you have to sort of be paying attention for. Now, the performance on this one is also exceptional. So the projection is monstrous. This one is literally one you could probably get away with one spray and be good with that. I probably or typically go 2 sprays with this one, but the sillage, the projection is enormous. So this is one that you will definitely smell as you move around, and it is one that people smell around you. It has a huge, huge scent cloud, and certainly this is an easy one to overspray. So you do have to be aware of that, test it out a little bit and see what works best for your skin, because everybody does get varying amounts of projection, but for me, absolutely enormous. The longevity on this one is also good. I would typically clock it around in between that 8 to 10 hour mark. I've had a little bit of variation as I've worn it, but it is definitely one that lasts a very, very long time. So you get that longevity and you get that projection with this one. And so it does have the value there with respect to the actual projection. Now, why this one a signature scent? The thing about this fragrance is that it is an extremely classy fragrance. It is an extremely luxurious fragrance. And I think for me, when I look at something that I'd like to project something about my personality or give off a certain image, just like we wear, a certain type of clothing to look a certain way. I mean, fragrances are often picked much the same way. And for me, a signature scent should be something that says something about your attitude, or something that has a certain projects a certain persona or aspect of yourself. And this is one that is really well done and really good for a gentleman, a classier fellow. I think this would be definitely something for somebody a little bit older, a little bit more put together in their life. I couldn't see a teenager or someone probably even a little more youthful in their early 20s really rocking this. But of course, maybe you can, depending on who you are. But it is really one of those more classy gentleman's fragrances. One of the other great things about this fragrance, it is quite versatile. So I think that although this is a very classy gentleman's fragrance, it is something that can be worn a lot of different occasions. Of course, this one feels right at home if you have a suit on or you're going to a more formal occasion. But it is also one that I think you can wear more casually if you want to. It is something I put on with a t-shirt and no problem with that for me. It also is fairly versatile with respect to seasons. I think you can wear it easily fall and summer because it is such a musky, woody fragrance. Fall and winter. It works really, really well for that, and it is absolutely beast mode. Now, it is fairly clean smelling, and it does have a bit of a freshness about it. And I was actually surprised the perfumer for this one is Alberto Mariales. I didn't really expect him to do something like this, given that he's done, things like Aqua de Joe. It does have a little bit of that freshness, but it is something that I understand, obviously, that says, somebody who blended this, it was very masterfully done because it is very smooth and very luxurious. But that being said, it does have that little bit of freshness that I think it's easy enough to wear it in the spring. And depending on where you are, it might be a little bit much for the summer, but you would have to see what your climate is like. I think especially in the summer in the evening, it could be pulled off as well. But it does have a lot of versatility there. And I think it also, like I said, says something about you as a person. It has that luxurious, classy quality. Something or someone that likes the finer things in life. I think this one stacks up really well. I mean, ultimately, I'm starting to see a tendency in what I think of as a signature scent, and I think I'm going to have to pick some ones that, that maybe I personally wouldn't have as a signature scent, and discuss why or why not, or what kind of person could wear them. But this one, luxurious and classy, really well done, very good performance, good longevity, good projection, and also very versatile and has a classy appeal to it, a gentleman's fragrance. Anyways, guys, I'm going to cut the video right there. Let me know in a comment down below, have you tried anything from the Kilian Oud line? If not, is there anything you want to try? Let me know. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.